Okay, you're going to do 2 assignments today. After I'm done explaining this, pause the video and then just do the problem. Okay, you have to find the solution for the x variable. What you have is 3 times the parentheses 2x plus 6, and then the parentheses is closed. Then you got minus 2x equals 22. That's a little bit more of a complex one. First, you're going to line up your equals, and you're going to put 22 over here, because what we have to do first is deal with that parentheses. So the parentheses, the entire parentheses is being times by 3. So I need to draw the distributive property rainbows, and I need to go over here and find that product. I take 3 twice, write it down, and I'm going to first times it by 2x and then by 6. Okay, so 3 times 2x is 6x, and 3 times 6 is 18. So on this side of the equals, now give yourself some room. You're going to write 6x plus 18. Now after you've written those two things down, you're going to cross the parentheses and the outside multiplier out, and you still have this minus 2x that you need to write down for the equals. Okay. Alright, now the equals is right here. The x's are on the same side together, so we're going to make our v. Okay, so I've got a positive 6, and that 2 is going to be plus negative, because when I make the v, I always want to be adding those together. It's not 6 plus 2, though. It's 6 plus negative 2. So I'm going to line up my equals, 22, and then I add. I take 6 plus negative 2. It's going to be 4. Okay, so it's going to be 4x plus our constant of 18. And now I have a simpler equation I can solve. I make my wall, dot and circle, dot, because two things happening. You got times 4 and plus 18. So we have to deal with the 18. The number that's not multiplied by x, we have to get that out of there. So the opposite of plus 18 is minus 18. Go ahead and cross that out. So I have 4 times x. Then 22 minus 18 is 4. So 4 times x equals 4. I divide both sides by the number with the x, which is going to be 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. So we have an answer of 1. That's the value for x. Okay, example 2. Solving for x. So line up your equals, and you're going to put 18 over there. Now in the parentheses, you got x plus 2. You're going to want to put a 1 in front of the x, so you actually have a number there. And the outside multiplier is a 3, but you have to be careful on this one, because if that 3 has a minus sign, we make it plus negative. Again, the 5 is not what you're worried about. Right now you're worried about the negative 3, okay? Because that's the one that's right in front of the parentheses. It's got to be you're multiplying the parentheses by the number directly right in front of it, not 5. So the rainbows, the distributive property rainbows spring from the negative 3, not the 5. Okay, so I'm multiplying negative 3 by 2 different things. I'm multiplying it by 1x and then by positive 2. Okay, so negative 3 times 1x is negative 3x, and then negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. So when I come over here, I'm going to write negative 3x minus 6. When that's a negative, I just write the expression as a minus 6. So negative 3x minus 6. Okay, so let's cross out the parentheses and the number that I multiplied the parentheses by. But I also have this 5x here. It's positive, so I add 5x. Okay, so once again, the equals is here, so we're going to make our v and connect the like terms of x. We want to combine those together with addition. So 3 is negative. You want to put plus negative, that's fine. 5 is a plus, so we don't change that. So line up your 18. And then the numbers I need to add are negative 3 and 5. That's 2. 2x. This combines into 2x. Okay, and then I also have my minus 6 still. Okay, and now I can solve the problem. So there's the wall. You get a dot. Okay, I see you don't dot a lot of times, and that's fine because you know what it means. It means multiply. So we got to deal with the minus 6 first. So we plus 6 plus 6. You always deal with your constant first. Constant means the number that's not multiplied by x in any way, shape, or form. So you got 2 times x over here. 18 plus 6 is 24. I divide both sides by 2. And 24 divided by 2 is 12. Okay, so x has a solution of 12 in that equation. Okay, next problem, solving for the x. So again, all these equations are kind of more complex because they have a parentheses. And also you can't add 3 to 10 because 3 is multiplied by x, 7 is not. So you take your 2 right there, first line up your equals and put 10. Okay. Now your 2 has a minus, please make it plus negative. You might want to just make, if you have a parentheses in an equation, you might just want to make all your minus, not plus negative. I don't know. I usually don't, but it's up to you. But that outside multiplier is a negative 2. So when I draw my rainbows, remember it's got to be the number that's right directly in front of the parentheses. So negative 2 is my multiplier. And I'll be multiplying it by 3x and then by 7. Both of them are positives. The products aren't, but the 3x and the 7 are. So negative 2 times 3x is negative 6x, and then negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. So over here you need to write negative 6x minus 14. Okay, and then cross out the parentheses and the number because you have that product, but you also have to add 4x. It's positive, that's why I'm adding 4x. If that was a negative 4x, I'd write minus 4x. Okay, so the equals is here. The x's are on the same side, so we're going to go ahead and connect them. That is a negative 6, and that's a positive 4. So when I add them together, I add negative 6 plus 4. Okay, I got negative 2, so I now have negative 2x. And then I also have my constant, minus 14. Okay, so here's the wall. Now you can make your wall. As soon as you have just a single x in the problem without any parentheses, you can make your wall. Okay, you got times negative 2 and then minus 14. So the opposite of minus 14 is plus 14. 10 plus 14 is 24. Over here you got negative 2 times x. Okay, so now x is only being multiplied, so I divide by the number with the x, which is negative 2. 24 divided by negative 2 is negative 12. And on some of these problems, if you don't know them, just use your calculator. Okay. Okay, next problem, line up your equals. You got to simplify this side of the equation so the parentheses isn't there. So you got 5x plus 3 in the parentheses, and then right in front of it you got negative 4. If you want to go plus negative, that's fine. So distribute your negative 4. That's all you're worried about on this step. Negative 4, negative 4. Now I'll be multiplying it by positive 5x and then by positive 3. Okay, so when I times those, it's negative 20x, and when I multiply those, it's going to be negative 12. So you want to write negative 20x minus 12. Give yourself some room because you got something else to put there. So you cross out the parentheses in the number that you multiplied, and then you write plus 5x. Alright, my x's are on the same side of the equation, okay, again, and they always are on this assignment, so connect them with the v. Now make sure you pay attention to the signs of the numbers you're adding. That's a negative 20, and that's a 5. So line up your equals, and you have 18, Then I will be taking negative 20 plus 5. It's going to be negative 15. So negative 15x. And then remember your constant, minus 12. So there's two things going on the x side. You have times negative 15 and minus 12. So we have to deal with the constant first. Okay. So the opposite of minus 12 is plus 12. And then plus 12 to 18. So line up your equals. 18 plus 12 is 30. And on the other side you got negative 15 times x. Now it's time to divide by the number that's multiplied by x, which is negative 15. Okay, 30 divided by negative 15 is going to be negative 2. Okay, next one, solving for x. Again, we have to simplify the side so it doesn't have the parentheses. That parentheses has got to go. So you got 3x plus 2, and your outside multiplier is a 2, and it is a negative 2. So I distribute the negative 2. So you got negative 2, and you're going to multiply that twice, first by 3x, then by 2. So it's going to be negative 6x and then negative 4. So over on this side we write negative 6x minus 4. That's the product there. Okay, now but you also got a 4x that you need to add before the equals. Okay. Now, you're not ready to make your wall yet because there's two different x's. They're on the same side of the equation. When they're on the same side together, that allows me to make my v and add the like terms. So I'll be adding negative 6 and positive 4. So line up your equals. You know that side's 20. So I take negative 6 plus 4. It's going to be negative 2. So it's negative 2x. Okay, and you have a constant of minus 4. Okay, so the wall's here, two operations with x. It's being multiplied by negative 2, and then a 4 is being minus. So the opposite of minus 4 is plus 4. So 20 plus 4 is 24. And then over here we got negative 2 times x. Then I divide both sides by the number with the x, negative 2. And 24 divided by negative 2 is negative 12. Okay, next problem. Again, you need to simplify the side of the equation that has a parentheses. You got 2x plus 2, and 4 is your multiplier. It's positive 4, so I don't need to make any plus negatives. So you got 4, 4. Okay, you're going to take it times 2x, and you're going to take it times 2. So that's going to be 8x here, and that's going to be 8 here. So on this side, I write 8x plus 8. Again, if that constant's a positive, you write plus. If it's a negative, you just write minus. Okay, and that takes care of that product, but I still got plus 3x. Okay, so there's your equals. The x's are on the same side. Okay, 8 and 3 are both positives, so it's pretty easy to add them when they're both positives. It's just 11. 11x plus the 8. Okay, then I go from there. You got two operations with x times 11 and plus 8. The opposite of plus 8 is minus 8. 30 minus 8 is 22. And then you got 11 times x. Okay, then we divide 11 times this number, x equals 22. So to find the number, you divide by the number with the x. 22 divided by 11 is 2. Okay, why don't you pause the video right now and work the 4 problems and then rejoin me. Okay, now this next one can be a little bit hard to understand. The work, it's not a lot of work, but you start getting fractions thrown into the equation. Your job is to solve for the x. Now it says 1/2 times x equals 4. Okay. So you have multiplied by a half. Here's what this really means in like real life scenario. It means I got this big piece, okay? I cut it in half because the bottom's 2, okay? And not only do I cut it in half, okay? One part, there's one up there, okay? One part is 4, is equal to 4. So if it's in half, that means the other half is 4. And then together, you know, if I add them up, tally them up, that gives me 8. The answer to this is 8, okay? Because if I take a 8, split it in half, each part's 4, and that's what that means. Half of what big number? If you take a big number, cut it in half, you get 4. What was the number to start with? Well, if I cut something in half and get 4, I would have had to have 8 to start with. You're kind of trying to find the number you started with, so when you cut it in half, each half was 4. Now, that's going to be a lot of work drawing that picture every time, so here's how you solve this equation using operations. Now x, there's nothing being added or subtracted, so we don't need to worry about that. It's being multiplied, but it's multiplied by a fraction. Here's what I do when that variable is multiplied by a fraction. You're actually going to multiply again on each side, and what you do with the fraction is just flip it. So 2 over 1, and then 2 over 1 over here. Now what you can do is cancel the 2's and the 1's, and that gives me just x. Now 4 times 2 over 1, okay, I'm going to make a box, and to make that 4 a fraction, I can always put a 1 under it, so I'm able to multiply it by 2 over 1. Okay. Again, I would just put a 1 under it, so you got 2 fractions. So 4 times 2 is 8. And 1 times 1 is 1, and then divide the 8 by the 1, and that's 8. So that's how you get 8 off of that. Okay, next problem. Negative 1/3 x equals 5. Now don't worry so much about the negative. So what I do now, instead of cutting it into halves, I cut it into pieces of 3 because of 3. Okay. And just one of them gives me 5. So that means every other piece is 5. So when I tally up 5, 5, and 5, that's 15. Okay. The answer to this problem is 15. It's going to be negative 15 because there's a negative. But again, here's how to use operations to solve it. So x only has one operation, multiplied by a fraction. So instead of just dividing, we're going to multiply by that fraction's reciprocal, which means I flip it. So that'd be 3 over 1. Now make sure you put keep the negative. It doesn't matter what, put it with the top. If you see a negative, just put it with the top. You're going to multiply over here by negative 3 over 1. You can cross those out, okay, and that gives you x by itself. So I put a 1 under the 5. And then 5 times negative 3 is negative 15, and then 1 times 1 is 1. Then divide those, negative 15 divided by 1 is negative 15, and that's my answer. So it's kind of different when you multiply by a fraction. Okay, next one, 2/5 x equals 40. I'm solving for x. Okay, only one thing happening to x, times by 2/5. This one's a little bit more confusing. So I would take the whole, okay? I'm trying to find how much the whole is. That's what I'm trying to do in all these problems. You take some whole, take 2/5 out of it, and what you get's 40. What did you have to begin with? Okay, so now I'd cut it into fifths, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but this time the top number's a 2. That means these two, okay, these two together are 40. Instead of just one of them being 40, two of them are 40. Now to find out what each piece is, you can just divide 40 in half. So you'd have 20 and 20, and that means every other piece is 20. So that 20 plus 20 is 40. 60, 80, 120. So the answer to this is 120, but here's how you get that quicker than drawing the picture. Okay, I can multiply by the reciprocal. So 5 over 2, 5 over 2. You can cross those out and you have x. Put a 40 over 1. And then 40 times 5 is going to be 200. Then 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, so 200 divided by 2 is 100. That's your answer. And that makes sense because 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Sorry, I think I misread that the first time. Okay. Next one. Now I'm going to quit going to the green paper. We're just going to solve the problem. Okay. So when you multiply by a fraction, you reciprocate the fraction and multiply each side by the reciprocal. Cancel those. You have x. Put a 1 under your whole number. 100 times 5 is 500. 1 times 4 is 4. And 500 divided by 4 is 125. Okay, next problem. Now you got things going on with your x, okay? More than one. You got times by 4/5, but there's a constant here that you need to get rid of. The opposite of plus 4 is minus 4. So before I worry about that fraction, I got a minus 4. And then you have 4/5 x. And then negative 60 minus 4 is going to be negative 64. You can use a calculator on that. Now you got times, but it's times by a fraction. So what I do is reciprocate the fraction 5/4 and then times the other side by 5/4. These can go bye-bye. Okay. And then just put a 1 under. Make a box somewhere so you can multiply the tops. Negative 64 times 5 is negative 320. 1 times 4 is 4. Then you divide negative 320 by 4, and you get negative 80. Okay, next one. Okay, the equals is here, sorry. Okay, so there's the x. We've got a plus 3 and a times by negative 5, 6. So we deal with the 3 first. So minus 3. Minus 3. Negative 17 minus 3 is negative 20, and then you got negative 5, 6 times x. Okay, alright, so now it's time. I have multiplication, but it's by a fraction. Okay, so we need to reciprocally multiply each side still by the reciprocal. 6 over 5. And you have to keep the negative. Okay, just put it on top. And then negative 6 over 5 over here. So you can get rid of those. To get rid of them, though, you need a negative and a negative. So you got x. Okay, put a 1 under the 20. So negative 20 times negative 6 is positive 120. You multiply the two top numbers, multiply the bottom numbers, and then divide. 120 divided by 5 is 24. Okay, next problem. Walls here. You got multiplication by a half and a plus 4. We got to get that plus 4 out of there. Opposite of plus 4 is minus 4. So 12 minus 4 then is 8. Then you got times, but it's by a fraction, so we don't divide. We multiply by the reciprocal. 2 over 1. 2 over 1. There's no negative in the 1/2, so I don't need to put a negative in the reciprocal. Okay, and then multiplying a whole number by a fraction, you just put a 1. That's going to be 16 on top, 1 on bottom. That gives you 16. Okay, and then the last one. Okay, this time you just got the multiplication, so we don't have to add or subtract, but since it's by a fraction, we multiply, and we flip the fraction to 8 over 3. Remember to keep the negative on top, okay, if there is a negative. and then negative 8 over 3. Okay, you got x. I'm going to stick a 1 under my 15 so I know what I'm multiplying by. So 15 times negative 8 is negative 120. 1 times 3 is 3. Then divide those, negative 40. Okay.